Welcome to the Soul Led Duo podcast, where we dive deep into everything human design and energetics. You'll find this podcast tailored especially for you if you are independent, spiritually aware, free spirit, excited to learn, grow, and experiment your way to your best life possible. Our empathetic, conversation driven style is here to help you tackle life's big problems, make them more fun, and have you feeling like you have a couple awkward best friends that just get you. Join us for each episode to decode your human design chart, talk lifestyle, parenting, relationships, and well, how to be more unapologetically you.
Okay, so we've been talking about this pivotal point in our life from 1 to 7 that sort of is the deciding factor of how safe we feel in situations and what's safe and what's not safe. And like I was telling you, I really wanted to revisit this part of my life to kind of plug those pieces into what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, but I didn't know how to do that. Like I've done
Yeah.
before where I've gone to like, you just go wherever the session takes you. But I was like, no, I very specifically want to go back to this time. So I actually went out to the Alpha Femme group and I made a post. I don't know if you saw it, but I just made a post
I
that said,
did.
okay, perfect. Then you saw it. It was like, how can I go back to a specific time period in my life? And everybody was saying hypnosis. And Melissa suggested somebody, and I've seen this name before, and it always works like this. I'll click on the person's name, and then I go to message them, and I see that we've already connected in some way. We just didn't realize.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to her, and she does something called rapid transformation therapy. So
Okay.
I've heard of this, but I didn't really know what it was. I've heard of hypnotherapy before and being under hypnosis, but I didn't really, I like to think like, oh, I'm too mentally strong for that. Yeah, okay. So she reached out to me actually, and as soon as Melissa tagged her, and she said that she had been wanting to work with me for a while, so she actually, of course, she was like, let's do this. So the session, it was so crazy because literally like the moment she started speaking, like we popped on a Zoom like this, and the moment that she started speaking, she's like, I need to see your face. I need to connect with you. And the moment she started speaking and doing like what she does to get you into hypnosis, I was crying. Like I was already crying. It was so interesting. So prior to us getting into the session, we did like a call where she had asked me like, what are you trying to get to? Like, what are your intentions? Like, what's going on? So all I told her was that I told her about self. I told her that we were doing this program and that I was building this program, and there was a very pivotal point in our life. And I wanted to go back to that point and sort of do this work to prepare me for delivering it, and then also preparing for holding space of everybody who's taking it. And so she's like, well, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And it was so cool the way she did this. She goes, I'm going to start sentences and I want you to finish them. And I'm like, okay. So she's asking.
Who knows what you're going to come up with?
I know. So she's like asking me these questions. She's leading these, like starting off these sentences, and I'm just finishing them. And this is how I knew it was the right person. She said, there are parts of you that have, from your past. And she said 7 years old. She said around the time you're 7. And when we go back to these places, we realize that we've like solidified these ways of being, and we get trapped in those spaces. And she said, today we're going to talk about what you do because of that, what you think because of that, and what you feel because of that. What does it sound like?
It's just like so.
Okay.
Just like so.
And so I'm just like, okay, this person's for me, right? So then I start telling her a little bit more about herself, and she's like, I got you. So she's asking me all these questions about how I feel and what I think. And she's just like asking me to finish these questions. And so we start to jot down like this kind of like jumbled mess of some things that I've felt since I was little, things I've thought since I was little, things that I do that I recognize that I do, but I'm like, why am I doing this? So she gets all that down. So when we actually meet for the session, she reads back to me the notes she's taken. And the moment
What's the time period between when this happened and when you met again?
A couple days.
Okay.
If that, like very quickly. So so she reads back what I've written. So she was saying things like, you feel this way, you think these things, you act this way, you notice it. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm just like bawling. So then she gets me into the hypnosis. Go. I was not expecting this. So she's like, she has me do this thing with my eyes, right? So she's like, it's like, you're gonna point your eyes as far back as you can, like you're looking up into your skull, right? And she has me take
Hmm.
a couple breaths doing that. And then she goes, now close your eyes, but keep looking up. And so I close my eyes and I keep looking up. And what this is doing is resetting your nervous system, right? It's getting you out of fight or flight. After she just read me all the things that triggered me, right? So like it's like I'm picking up what she's doing, right? And so it's like I'm looking up, and then all of a sudden she has me look down, like I'm looking over a fence, right? And bring my eyes with me. And the moment I do that, I don't know what happens, but I like flip to another place, and then she goes 10, and she starts saying these things. You're feeling yourself getting, heavier. 9, and she's like saying these things. 8, 7. And each time she's talking me through what's happening as I'm dropping, you're connecting more with yourself. And she's saying all these things, and all of a sudden it's like we're at 1. I'm already bawling. I feel like I am young. That's the only way that I can describe it, is I feel like I am young again. And
Yeah.
she says, you're going to get an immediate visual in your mind of a memory, and I want you to start describing it to me. And the moment she said that, a memory came through. This was a memory that I've had come through before during an IST session, one where stuff came up, but I blocked it all away and was like, I don't want to do this. I'm sure you've had ISTs like that. And you
Yeah.
just said, I'm done for the day. So,
Yeah.
so ironically, this was something that I was going to go back and look at anyways, right? So, I tell her, I said, I'm in Canada. I'm little. I don't know how little, 6, 7. I'm not sure. And I'm walking over this bridge, and I see this like beautiful, like little city shops, and everything's all quaint, and like flowers hanging from the fronts of the shop. And there's like this water that we're walking over on this bridge. Everything about this scene is so beautiful, and I am just feeling so much joy. And I look over and I see a man who's kind of dirty, and he's like sitting on the ground. And my whole heart opens up, and I'm like, this guy needs a hug. Like, he needs a hug. He needs to feel loved. And so I run up to him with my arms open, like I'm going to hug him, right? And as I'm doing this, my dad's behind me. And my dad grabs me, right? And he's like, he says something, right? He says something yucky, right? And I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something about the man being dirty, or not to touch strangers, or something. And he pulls me from behind, and I go from feeling so much like outpouring of love, and just feeling like I need to embrace this person, and it's just so beautiful, and everything about this scene is beautiful, and I just want to express this love, to just feeling like trapped, like I can't do that, like that was wrong, right? So I'm processing all of these things that are coming up, and this was the trippiest part. I can hear myself speaking to her, and I sound like an 8-year-old. I sound like a 7-year-old. I sound like a 6-year-old, like what they would sound like. My face has snot. Have you ever seen these kids with snot
Yes.
on their face, and they're not even concerned. It's just
Yes.
it's like they could
Gosh.
care less. That was what I was experiencing. I didn't even realize the snot was on my face until I was crying so hard that I lift my blanket up. And when I touched my face, the blanket just became like slime, because there was so much
Oh my
mucus.
gosh.
And oh my God, I'm having like this little child breakdown, right? And I'm so upset. And as she asks me a few questions, and she starts to do that thing where she starts a question, or she starts a
Yeah.
sentence, and I finish it, right? Like, I'm so upset right now because, and it's like, whoa. So I'm like saying all of these things about how I just don't understand, because like it's like you're preaching one thing, Dad, but like it's wrong for me to do this, and I'm really confused. Like, this seems to go
Hmm.
against everything that I've been taught. And then all of a sudden, second memory pops in. I'm around the same age. We're traveling. We're at a church for the very first time. My dad was very, very consistent about, we go to church every single Sunday, come hell or high water. It doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter if we're out of town, it doesn't matter if we're in a different country, like, we're going to church. So we
Yeah.
were visiting someplace, and we go into church, and they send us downstairs into this basement, and they're doing like a Bible study, and they bring out like a picture of Jesus, and they're having us like learn about Jesus and who he was. And so they're like, he does amazing things for people, and he helps the poor, and he helps the homeless. And they're saying all these things. And I'm just like, who is this Jesus person? He's such a wonderful person, and I want to be like him, and blah, blah. And then they hit us with and if you don't, you'll burn in hell. And I'm
Oh
like,
gosh. Aggressive.
it's
God
like,
dang it.
it was this really like, It was, and it probably wasn't like that, right? But it was like it was like the same thing that I had experienced with my dad, where I'm feeling this high, I'm feeling this joy, I'm feeling this truth, and then all this love, right? I'm feeling Jesus's love and like how he was with people as they're telling this story, and then snatch, feel unsafe. And so I'm like, why? Like, you're keeping me from being Jesus. And if I
Right.
can't be like Jesus, that means I'm not going to get into heaven. And if I'm not going to get into heaven, that means that I'm being rejected. There's no place for me. Small, 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 small. Get in the box, get in the box, get in the box, get in the box. Right. And so she has this moment where she has me address my parents. And I can't really remember if this happened in the moment or if we looped back around. We looped quite a bit. So one of the things
Mhm.
that she has you do that's really important is retelling the story over and over again to really allow yourself to get the full picture. And so
Yeah.
I had this chance to talk to my dad. And what was really cool was I'd never done this before. She had me flip places with my dad. And then she had me answer as though I was my father.
Mm.
And so, like, for me to flip into my dad and say, I am not the faith-based man I pretended to be. Like, for me to hear that from my father, right? In this,
Oh.
it, it, it was, as a child, we idolize our parents, and my dad was everything to me, right? And he was saying one thing and doing another thing, and it was so conflicting. And the little child in me can't make sense of if daddy's not really being like he says I need to be for me to go to heaven, is daddy not going to go to heaven either? Like
Oh, so much fear.
there's so much that comes in that, right? And
Yeah.
so there's some beliefs solidified in that moment about my love and how I needed to keep things to myself. That it was I was afraid to let people know who I really was, what I was really doing. I was afraid of not getting into heaven. I was afraid I was gonna be, left and all the things that I hold close to my heart are going to be snatched or taken away from me. And so what I started to do was I was like a hoarder. All of a sudden I could feel how I was hoarding things, but internally, not externally. So I had this box around me to keep me safe. And I was trying to keep all the things that I love as close to me in the box as possible. Because if they left the box, then somehow they were going to be taken from me, or somebody was going to make me express it in a way. Somebody was going to judge me. Somebody was going to persecute me if they really knew the real me. And so the way that this was showing up now in this behavior, and I think we've talked about this before, is when I have something really beautiful to share, like self, I will find a way to self-sabotage and keep it to myself.
Mhm.
Because I don't know that I'm allowed to express it the way I really want to express it. And then I'm fearful of the persecution that's gonna come if I express it. So I would rather just keep it to myself and keep it hidden. And so there was more that came with that, this memory, and we'll loop back to this, but she had me continue on, right? And so as we continue on, the next memory that came to mind was I'm around 9 years old. My parents had gotten divorced, and then pretty quickly, my dad met someone, and then 3 weeks later, they were engaged, and then 3 months later, they were married. Well, 2 months and a week
Wow.
they were married by 3 months after they had met, right?
Okay.
So it
I
was a
mean, I can't say much.
I get it, right? Like, we've all been there. So,
Yeah.
well, at least me.
As a grown up, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, you're like, I totally get it.
Go,
And,
go, go.
it's so interesting here because as we grow, we realize why our parents did what they did, or we can see ourselves in those shoes and go,
Mhm.
but at the moment, we're not really realizing that my child is in a state of developing what is safe right now, how to express emotions, how to express desires. And also, I'm introducing her to this new person. Her home is
Yeah.
changing, her family dynamic is changing, all this stuff is going on, right? We forget, right? And so I'm there. And this very specific day, I remember me and my dad were always really close growing up. My dad has had some mental health stuff. And
Mhm.
I was usually the person that he would come and talk to and just give me all the things, right? A
Oh,
35-year-old.
kid.
Yes, a 35-year-old man blatantly telling his daughter all the mental stuff that he was experiencing.
And you've
So
already got that like dichotomy of like what you see versus what you hear versus what you get. That's okay. I'm tracking.
yes. So, like, for example, there was one time where my dad was giving us a silent treatment. He hadn't talked to any of his kids in weeks, and he decided to like shave his head Britney Spears style, and he needed help with like shaving it off. So he called me in the bathroom and had me help shave his head. And while I'm doing this, he's telling me how he wants to end his life, how he doesn't want to be alive anymore, how everything is, and that was that was at 7 too. It was just, there was
Okay.
so much like going on in my life. But anyways, back to this experience. It's late at night. All the other kids have gone to bed. And my new stepmom was there, and she had gone upstairs, to like get ready for the nighttime. And I was downstairs, I was sitting on my dad's lap, and we were just having one of these conversations. My dad had always been really lovey-dovey to me, hold my hand, have me on his lap, like never anything weird, always just love. And and she came downstairs and she kind of made a comment of like, "Hey babe, come upstairs, come to bed." And at the time, like I'm too young to understand what she's asking, but now I get it, right? So she's asking him to come up. And he's like, "Hey, I'm talking to Sarah." And then, a couple of minutes later, she comes back down and, "Hey, are you gonna come to bed or not? Like I'm waiting for you." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, just a minute." And there was already some tension in the house, you know, just flat out. My stepmother was jealous, and she projected that onto me, onto my sisters. There was always this weird competition between like us and for our father's attention. Like it felt like we were always fighting, right? And
Yeah.
so she came downstairs, and the last time she came downstairs, she made a comment towards my dad to trigger him, and she said something along the lines of, "You'd probably rather sleep with Sarah than me." Or and she used
Crazy
and
though.
she didn't use the word sleep with. I filtered because we were on podcast. She said, "You'd probably rather have sex with your own daughter than me." And in that moment when she said that, he threw me off his lap, and he got up and he went upstairs to like comfort her or fight with her. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't even know if he
Yeah.
remembers, but he went upstairs to do whatever he was doing with her. And I was left there alone to
To
make sense
process all of that.
out of her mouth. Right.
Heck.
I'm like, wait, so in this moment, I can feel going back to the solidification that happened. And I immediately start thinking of the fourth memory. And the fourth memory was in that exact same house around that exact same time when I'm already contemplating this thing that happened. Our next door neighbor was a single mom, and she was letting her kids come over, and we would take care of her kids for her so she could go out and stuff. And they were young, they were like 3 and 5. And here I am, like 8 or 9 years old, So it's like it's not like I'm an adult watching them. We're just basically hanging out with.
Yeah.
And so I'm giving the older one a bath. And again, every situation that I had with these memories where I was really high, really happy, really joyful, and then something like happens and I'm like, "Wait, what just happened?" So I'm there and I'm giving her a bath, and it's like a fun time. We're splashing in the water, doing what kids do. And she said, "I don't understand. Don't you love me?" And I'm like, "Of course I love you. I love everybody. We're 9. Like, I love everybody." And she was like, "Well, if you love me, then why aren't you showing it?" And I'm super confused at this point, trying to like make her happy, right? I want to be a good babysitter, and she was like, "Well, when people love each other, they touch each other, they do this, they do that." And she starts telling me about the sexual acts, right? And how sexual acts is how we show love. Now,
Oh,
as a,
she was 9?
she was 5, I was 9.
Dang.
I know.
Okay.
So at this point, right, like I am making sense of these 2 situations that just happened.
Which you
Where
can
in
barely
both
make sense of because 'cause you're 9.
Yes, and the only way that I could make sense of it in that moment was to connect love with sexuality, that that is what love looks like, that there has to be a sexual component to it, and not only that, but it all needs to be kept hidden. The little
It
girl wa
can't be unconditional.
Correct. Love has to be conditional. And so, and then it had that sex component to it, but there was this thing about keep it safe, keep it close, because if somebody knows that you're loving somebody else, they can snatch them away. They can come down the stairs and snatch it. My dad stopped touching me after that. He was so terrified of what she was going to say or how it was going to be perceived that he just stopped. So to go from being somebody whose father is overly touchy, probably, not from a bad space, but
Very affectionate.
very affectionate, thank you, very affectionate, like, that's how he showed his love was physical touch, and so to go from having this very affectionate father to then hearing that he wants to have sex with you and not having it corrected, right, in that moment, he allowed her to speak like that. He didn't
And then he
stand up.
made her feelings more important than
E
your processing
exactly,
things.
and left me to process that, right? But it's like I'm trying to process this thing that she said, and then he stops touching me as if it's true. And so
I
go ahead.
I can't fathom, like, how many times I've, like, sat on the couch and, like, snuggled with little dude watching a movie or something, and then all of a sudden be like, "Stop. No, no, no." I can just feel how he would be so confused. And obviously he's younger than you were at that point in time, but, the confusion and then the disappointment and then just this whole waterfall cascade of emotions, I just I wanna hug little Sarah so bad.
I wanted to hug her too, and what was really cool in this session is, like, I got a chance to do that. I got a chance to let her
Mm,
be heard. I got a chance to let her speak. I role played with them, switching bodies with them so I could
yeah,
my stepmom and tell me what I needed to hear from her, right? There's this way where in order for us to truly let something go, we have to allow ourselves to say and feel the things that we needed to express and feel in that moment. But we are made to feel guilty, or we use our brain to justify that. Like,
yeah,
my dad was going through a divorce, and my mom or my stepmom was adopted, and and later I found out that there was some sexual trauma there, and so like we tend
uh,
to validate away, like, who am I to be angry? Who am I to be upset? My parents were trying to do the best they could. And all of that is allowed to be true. And also, I could be fucking pissed. Like, I'm allowed to have that moment as a kid where I get to just cry and hear my parents say, I failed you. Like, I really needed to hear
yeah,
them say that. And I don't need to hear them say it anymore because I got a chance to in this session say it to me. I got a chance to hear it. And so we work through this one, and then all of a sudden, the last one, she takes me back to that beginning because she could feel that there was something still there about me wanting to hoard this stuff. And all of a sudden, I have the fifth memory, which is when I was on 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. My parents got into a huge argument, and my aunt at the time took my mom to a abused women's shelter. And I
mm,
remember this being a very confused time because as violent as my dad's words could be, I have never ever seen my dad strike my mother or anything like that. And so I remember we went there and there was like this back and forth. Could she stay? Could she not? There was this whole story about, well, when she told them what had happened, they were like, that doesn't really qualify for like, abuse. We're not really sure if you can stay here. So then she came back out, went back in, kind of changed the story a little bit. Well, yeah, maybe he did physically hit me, but I just didn't want to say anything before, just to allow us to get in. Right. So when we go to this place, this itself was just completely traumatizing. We there was, we couldn't afford food. We ate the same thing every day. It was like cottage cheese or cereal without milk. Like it was,
oh,
and there was, the women here were all gathering together to talk about their traumas and probably vent about their husbands. So the kids were left by ourselves, and these other kids were violent. These other kids had been in homes where they had been hit or they had seen violence, and so I'm experiencing violence for the first time alone in this shelter, and all my stuff was gone. My dad was gone. I felt like my mom was gone. My room was gone. My bedroom was gone. My toys were gone. My friends were gone. My school was gone. My backyard was gone. Like literally everything was gone. And so it was like my brain in that moment said, the only things I'm ever allowed to keep are the things that people don't know about or the things that I keep within myself, right? And so it became like a hoarding situation on the inside, packing everything into this box, being terrified to come out of the box because out of the box is scary and somebody might hurt me or somebody might take my things or somebody might take the people I love, right? But in the box was also just as frustrating, just as scary. I'm feeling more and more claustrophobic as I'm growing up. Like all this stuff is just here. I feel like I'm going to burst. My shoulders feel heavy, like I'm carrying all this extra weight around, right? And not realizing why I feel suffocated and why bringing in more beautiful things or trying to create more beautiful things is just, there's no room for it. When she
yeah,
asked me, she said, what's in this box? And, the first thing that came to mind was um, pictures I never drew, paintings I never made. Like
Mm.
there was locked creativity, things that I was like, if I make it and if I put it in the real world, somebody can take it, somebody could judge it. So I'm just going to hold all of this power inside. Right. And so we had I mean, I've never cried so hard in my life. Like, I just cried the entire time, it seemed like. When I got done, the back of my eyes felt like they were bruised. I looked like a raccoon when I came out of the session. I felt like I had just released 30 years of trauma, of this cycle, these patterns that only existed because I was still operating from a space of that little girl, of what she thought I needed to do. And the most beautiful part about this is once you see all this, the best mother for us is us, And
Mhm.
so I
I
was
was just
able,
thinking that I'm like, Layla draws everything and she's so free with her creativity.
yeah,
Like her creativity is so beautiful.
yes. Yeah, it's like, our greatest parent is us. And so not only parenting others, but we get to parent ourselves in this moment. Like, I got to go back to that 5-year-old little girl in the shelter and comfort her.
Mm.
I got to tell her all the things I have now. I got to tell her about my house. I got to tell her about my clothes. I got to tell her about my husband. I got to tell her about my children. I got to tell her about my clothes, about, my everything, my lotions, my potions, my everything. I got to go back and tell her, like, I know it seems like in this moment that you're losing everything, but you have everything to gain, and it was just such beautiful, profound moment for me to go and to comfort her. And then what happens in that moment is, like we've talked about with the self material, we're not going to get too much into self for those of you listening, but it's like the the beginning, the step one is realizing that your nervous system, your physical body was thinking from a place of how do I keep myself alive? And the person who decided what that looks like is the 7-year-old version of you. And so now at 38, I get to come back and say, I'm not 7 anymore. I'm not 6 anymore. I'm not 5 anymore. I'm not in the shelter anymore. I'm not with my parents anymore. Everything that has happened to me has already happened and I'm here. And now I get to change. I get to change that belief. I get to tell myself what is safe for me. I get to tell myself that I am safe, right? And that I don't have to feel that what's feared. And in order to do that, one of the things I still have homework to do for the next 21 days, I listened to this meditation that she created for me. And this meditation, that's how we ended the session, was she read to me this meditation. And the meditation was all about what I now want and what my life looks like now and what I'm calling into my life and what safe, like how safe I am, how protected I am. So it's putting the new into this hole we just created, because that's one of the things that I think people forget or miss out on is they go and they dig out all of this gunk and why is this here, and they pick it up and they're like, oh,
A
now I
vacuum.
realize. But then they lay it down and then they have this gaping hole,
Yeah.
and then how do they fill that gaping hole if they don't understand the higher version of self? They're going to go back down to
Mhm.
that little self and ask them, what do we do with this gaping hole? And that version of them is just going to say, bring more of that stuff that you left out, because
Well,
what's
they know.
comfortable. Yeah, that's what we know. That's what's comfortable. It was wild.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of
I'm very proud of little Sarah.
me too. She came through in a big way yesterday. Big way.
It feels like she's always been this little superhero, and there's times when she knew it, and there's times when she didn't. And
Yeah.
there's times when she was just waiting for somebody to see that she's got like a cape.
Mhm. Yeah, it was really something else. And you know what was so shocking about all of this was I sort of had this I sort of had this idea that I was gonna go in and I was gonna see this stuff that like I never saw before. There was obviously something really traumatic that had like locked in me or whatever. And it wasn't like that. Every memory that I remembered, I have thought about those things before. In fact, that's why I remembered of all the beautiful things I experienced as a child, those were the things that I was remember. I had locked out not the bad stuff. I had locked out all the beauty because that was part of my trauma is lock the beauty away. Don't let anybody know because your joy gets stolen every time you try and express it. Your love gets snatched back every time you try and express it. And so, it was so like what an aha moment when all of these things were things I had already recalled. I just didn't realize the impact they had had on me because I was trying to figure it out like, well, learn with the mentality of a 15-year-old instead of a 48-year-old. So, um, God, it was just so beautiful. Immediately when I got out, I was like, Darcie's next.
Oh gosh.
I
And
even was like, everybody in Self needs to do this.
the crazy thing is it's almost like because we share the same brainwave all the time, all of a sudden these like memories of being little are like starting to pop up and I'm like, that's weird. I haven't thought about that in like 10 years. Why is that popping into my subconscious? Okay, well, here Sarah's calling. What's up?
Yeah.
And here we are.
It reminds me of like, I know we have a lot of like business talk and stuff like that, but it reminds me of like the situation that we were talking about with Melissa with those guys. It's like they get rid of the person, but they keep the sales strategy. It's like sometimes we will go in and we'll say, no, this wasn't good, or this interaction with my dad wasn't great, or this, and we'll pull this stuff apart, but then we keep the same underlying strategy. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not there's a reason. We have to go back and we have to change this.
There's a business book that I read a long, long, long time ago. I cannot remember for the life of me what it is. Um, I think it came out of a recommendation from Landmark, but the book was really interesting because it talks about breaking down. Oh, it's called The Three Laws of Performance.
Of course, it's three. Uh,
Everything is a three. But it talks the way I always imagined it, or when I remember that book, I think about like you want to put up a new building, like a cool high rise or some whatever it is, right? But you need to like bulldoze what was there before. And so you bulldoze the thing, and now you have all this like pile of rubble. Like you actually have to like clear that out to put the building in. If you just take down the building and then you try to build it on the rubble, it's like it can't. It's not sustainable.
we literally just went through this with our grass. I've planted the grass. This is my third time planting it, but the first two times I planted it, it died. It could not grow. It was suffocating because all of the old grass roots were underneath it. You couldn't even see them. They were underneath the
Yeah.
grass. They were suffocating the new
Yep.
things from blooming. I love that we always have like the same lessons come to us, but like in completely different ways. Like, of
Do
course,
you
mine would be in nature with some plants and just like in a book.
uh do you have Bermuda grass?
I do.
Is that what's underneath it?
So, but it looks like Bermuda was originally planted, and then some
Yes.
grass was planted, and then we just replanted Bermuda and pulled out everything that was in there.
Okay. I have a lesson for you.
Okay,
We just went through this. Okay, this is so nerdy, but anyway, the grass guy comes through the neighborhood every season talking about like weed killer and how do we for whatever, whatever, whatever. Anyway, we were asking him about the Bermuda because we also had Bermuda when we moved in, and it's like so, what's the right word? Pervasive. It takes over everything. It is like a monster. But when you plant the new seeds, it's almost like you have to plant them like a month or two early before the Bermuda could possibly bloom. So it has a chance for its root system to take hold. So, like here in Tennessee, we had to plant fescue. We wanted to plant fescue, but we had to plant it like 2 months or 3 months before they would normally seed Bermuda. And now our front yard is like all bright green, and there's just like a couple of pockets of Bermuda instead of like it's been like 20, 80, 30, 70 each year. Um, you have to like get ahead of it. Like if you get ahead of it, it helps a lot. Anyway,
I've
we just
I've
learned that.
heard there's like schedules and like you have to
Yeah.
replant this and then you have to replant this seed depending on the time of year and whatever. So I'm gonna geek out this year and we're gonna figure out how to grow a very beautiful lawn. I'm pretty excited about it. I've spent almost every single day I've gone in the backyard and done something. Dom was like, "This is so much labor," and I was like, "It's a labor of love, babe." I was like,
Oh.
if we can't love on Mother Earth, it's probably an indication that we're not loving on ourselves. He's like, whatever.
You know what? You know what you need? You need some white New Balance, some knee-high socks, and some cut off jorts.
Could you
It'll
imagine
take for sure.
that? Could you imagine Dom in socks and white New Balance sneakers?
Yes, I could. He wouldn't be very happy about it, but I could imagine
I thought we were done talking about my dad. What?
it. My dad had like 5 pairs of white. I don't remember if they were New Balance shoes, but they were lawn shoes, and they were like the exact same shoe, but they're like various gradients of green depending on how long he had him and what was going on with the grass, which color of the gradient he would wear that weekend when he was doing the lawn. There were like 5 pairs in the garage going into like the coming into the mudroom of our house growing up. Really funny.
Oh
But
God, our lives.
oh
Ah,
man, what an intense first podcast. I love that we get to end on something like
I
funny
know.
and light and refreshing.
Me too. I'm just loving all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the duality of the work is not always easy, but man, the reward, dude. It's like I never, ever, ever find myself regretting doing work on myself.
Yeah.
So,
It pays dividends.
well, thank you for being here and listening to my story.
Okay. Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was great. Okay. Well,
I'm excited for
I
you.
love you. It's coming. I can feel it. It's starting to land already, whether I like it or not.
Okay, I love you.
I I looked up our human design again today. I'm like, we've got to be work to do. I'm like, of course we're work to do. We're always making like personal development quantum leaps. So why would we be anything else together? Then of course there's work. Anywho,
Are you gonna dismiss us so that you can say how much you love me and that you mean it?
yeah, I love you. I mean it. Bye. We hope today's show resonated with you. If you want to be the first to hear about our upcoming shows, make sure you follow the Soul Led Duo podcast on YouTube and wherever you catch your podcasts. Check out darcieandsarah.com for show notes, your free human design chart, and other goodies. And we'll catch you next time. Love you, mean it. Bye.